Welcome back, deep divers. We get it. You're busy, you want knowledge, and you want it fast.
That's why we do what we do.
Today, we're strapping in for a deep dive into a book that's been making waves, Samantha Harvey's Orbital.
Winner of the 2024 Booker Prize.
Now, instead of you having to wade through reviews and articles, we've synthesized the best insights for you.
Yeah, we read a particularly insightful piece about Orbital, and we're going to break it all down. Why it matters, why people are talking, the whole deal.
So picture this. 24 hours aboard the International Space Station.
ISS.
Yeah, exactly, the ISS, hurtling through space, 250 miles above Earth.
A tiny, fragile bubble of human life.
With 6 astronauts and cosmonauts. A truly global crew looking down at our planet.
And the way Harvey structures the book is so smart. 16 chapters, each one representing a single 90-minute orbit of the ISS.
Yeah, this structure isn't just a gimmick. The cyclical nature of those orbits feeds into the themes of the book in a really profound way. So our mission today is to unpack those themes. Perspective, isolation, humanity's impact on the environment.
Big questions about our place in the cosmos, all that good stuff.
And by the end, you'll have a clear understanding of why Orbital is resonating with so many readers. Right off the bat, this idea of perspective really jumps out. The astronauts, they're literally seeing the Earth from a completely different angle than any of us ever will.
Right, and the review we read pointed out how this physical distance allows for a certain clarity of thought, a removal from those earthly biases we all have.
It's like when you step back from a painting to see the whole thing.
Instead of getting caught up in the details.
Exactly, get the full picture. And then there's the isolation. Not just being away from Earth, but from like all the noise of everyday life. Social media, work, even just being around other people constantly.
Yeah, the review kind of hinted at how being in that isolated environment forces a confrontation with the self, a deep introspection that we rarely experience in our hyper-connected world.
So being stuck in a tin can, hurtling through space, it makes you think, what kind of thoughts bubble up when you're forced to be alone with yourself like that?
It really does. And the review talked about how the symbolism of that isolation is super potent. It pushes the characters to examine those big existential questions that we tend to avoid down here.
Makes you wonder, what are we not thinking about because we're so busy down here?
For sure.
And from this individual sense of isolation, the book seems to move towards a broader perspective, humanity as a whole and our relationship with the environment.
Yeah, the review brought up how when the astronauts look down at Earth, they don't see borders or political divisions.
Just one tiny, fragile planet.
And that perspective really makes them think about our responsibility to protect it, the impact that we have on a global scale.
It's that overview effect you hear astronauts talk about.
You know, like that sudden realization of Earth's interconnectedness and vulnerability.
Yeah, it must be a real aha moment. And the book seems to capture that shift in perspective, right? Making us, the readers, reflect on our own impact on the planet.
Absolutely. It's not just abstract concepts. It's about seeing how our actions have real consequences for the planet. And the fact that they're surrounded by this vast emptiness of space, I think that naturally leads to those even bigger existential questions.
So we've got these individuals in this unique setting, this tiny, confined space station, orbiting the Earth over and over. And the review mentions how the ISS basically becomes a microcosm for exploring these huge questions.
Right, those really fundamental questions about existence, purpose, meaning, but all viewed through this incredible lens of being detached from Earth.
Like they're literally above it all. And the reviewer pointed out how Samantha Harvey, the author, is known for exploring these kinds of philosophical themes in her work.
Exactly, and Orbital seems to be the ultimate expression of that.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? You're in this pinnacle of human achievement, this technological marvel, but you're still wrestling with the same big questions that humans have always pondered.
Definitely.
Now, even though they're isolated up there, there's also this really interesting theme of unity that the review highlights, especially given that the astronauts are from such different backgrounds.
Yeah, you've got Japan, Russia, the US, the UK, Italy, all represented on this one space station.
All these different nationalities, different cultures, different political systems.
And the review really emphasized how, despite those differences, they have to work together to survive.
They're all united by this shared goal, this incredible mission.
Exactly. And up there, those earthly divisions seem to fade away. They're all just humans facing this extraordinary challenge together.
It kind of makes you wonder if we could learn something from that down here. You know, focusing on what unites us rather than what divides us.
Right.
Okay, let's loop back to that cyclical structure of the book. 16 chapters, 16 orbits.
Mhm.
It really seems to be more than just a narrative device, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the reviewer talked about how the repetition of those orbits mirrors the cyclical nature of human thought.
Like how we tend to revisit the same questions, the same worries over and over again.
Exactly. And each time, we might see them from a slightly different angle, gain a new perspective.
So that constant orbiting, it's like a visual representation of how our thoughts can loop back on themselves.
And it allows for a deeper engagement with those big themes. Like we keep coming back to them, just like the ISS keeps circling the Earth.
It's almost meditative in a way.
Totally.
Okay, so we've talked about the big ideas, the thought-provoking themes, but what makes Orbital a good book? Like in terms of its writing, its literary merit.
Well, the review was really enthusiastic about the prose, described it as lyrical and evocative.
So even if there's not a ton of action, the language itself is beautiful and engaging.
Exactly. It really paints a vivid picture of space and of the astronauts' inner lives.
Anything else that the reviewer highlighted as a strength?
They also mentioned that innovative structure again, said it really enhanced the thematic depth and made for a unique reading experience.
And of course, there's the philosophical depth we've been talking about.
That's a major plus for a lot of readers.
And what about the diversity of the characters? Does that contribute to the book's impact?
Absolutely. The fact that the astronauts are from such different backgrounds, it brings so much richness to the narrative.
Each of them brings their own unique perspective to those big existential questions.
Right. So it's not just one narrow viewpoint.
So it sounds like it's a really layered and thought-provoking book. But like with any book that goes this deep, there might be some downsides for certain readers. The review did mention a few potential criticisms.
Right. For example, some readers might find the lack of a traditional plot to be a drawback.
Like if you're looking for a fast-paced thriller, this might not be it.
Exactly. And the abstract nature of the philosophical reflections could be a bit much for some people.
So you got to be in the right headspace for this one. Any other possible criticisms?
The reviewer also mentioned that the focus on individual introspection might mean that there's not a ton of dialogue or interaction between the characters.
So if you're looking for a character-driven story with lots of banter, this might not scratch that itch.
Right.
But even with those potential drawbacks, Orbital has clearly made a huge impact. I mean, it won the Booker Prize.
Yeah, and that's a really big deal in the literary world. It signifies that the book is of exceptional quality and has something important to say.
And the review also pointed out how it kind of blends genres, doesn't it? It's not just straight up science fiction.
Right. It incorporates elements of literary fiction and philosophy as well.
So it's pushing the boundaries of what those genres can be. And it ties back to that important message about environmental responsibility, doesn't it?
Absolutely. By showing us Earth from this incredible perspective, the book really makes us think about our role in protecting our planet.
It's amazing how a story set in space can actually make us feel more connected to Earth. The review also mentioned some other books that explore similar themes, which I thought was really helpful.
Yeah, they suggested The Sparrow, The Left Hand of Darkness, Anathema,
The Dispossessed.
Solaris.
All great books that deal with those big questions about humanity and our place in the universe.
So if you're feeling inspired after this deep dive, definitely check those out. Okay, let's wrap things up. What are the key takeaways from our discussion of Orbital?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that the book offers a truly unique perspective on what it means to be human.
All set against the backdrop of this incredible journey through space.
Exactly. And the structure of the book, with those cyclical orbits, really reinforces those themes of introspection and repetition.
So it's not just about space travel, it's about those big questions that we all grapple with.
Right. Isolation, unity, our responsibility to the planet, all of that.
And even if it's not the most action-packed book out there, it sounds incredibly thought-provoking and emotionally resonant.
Yeah, the writing is supposed to be stunning. So here's a final thought for you to chew on. The astronauts in Orbital gain this incredible new perspective by literally leaving Earth. But how can we, down here on the ground, cultivate a similar shift in perspective in our own lives? Can we find ways to see our world, our problems, ourselves from a different angle, maybe through art, maybe through travel, maybe just by talking to people who have different viewpoints than our own?
It's a challenge, but it's something worth striving for.
And on that note, we'll see you next time for another deep dive. Keep exploring.